Happy Easter. So, last week we talked about the beginning of Holy Week, the Jesus entering Jerusalem on a donkey and clearing out the temple. And we talked about the Last Supper, and the last thing we talked about was Jesus dying on the cross. And that's a very, very sad place to end. But today we continue the story, and it's not sad anymore. So, here we go. After the Sabbath, at dawn, on the first day of the week, Mary Magdalene and the other Mary went to look at the tomb. So, first of all, who was the first to discover that Jesus was no longer in the tomb? We see that these are two women who were very close to Jesus and loved him very much. And so they're going there to Jesus' tomb, feeling sad, feeling empty, and what they want to do is help Jesus' body. They're bringing perfumes to as a way of mourning, as a way to talk about how sad they feel and how they're feeling. But when they get there, something else happens. So, there was a violent earthquake, for an angel of the Lord had come down from heaven, and, going to the tomb, rolled back the stone and sat on it. His appearance was like lightning, and his clothes were white as snow. The guards were so afraid of him that they shook and became like dead men. So these are questions that you can answer while you're watching or talk about while you're at home. So the first thing we want to look at is who rolled the stone away from the tomb? And you can answer that and talk about that with your family. And then, why do you think the guards were so afraid? Here's something you should understand. These Roman guards were big, scary, and very mean. They weren't afraid of anything. And these big guys, they see this angel and they scream like little girls and fall on the ground, passed out. So another thing you can do is describe the angel. How do you think this angel looked? And you can read Mark 16, Luke 24, and John 20 as a family, and maybe even draw a picture of how you think the angel looked like. So the angel talks to these women and says, "Do not be afraid, for I know that you are looking for Jesus, who is crucified. He is not here. He has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead and is going ahead of you into Galilee. There you will see him. Now I have told you." So, how do you think Mary and these other women felt seeing this angel telling them that Jesus was alive? You have to remember that they loved Jesus very much. They followed him all over the place. And even though he told them what he was going to do, they never really understood it until right now. So, think about this with your family. Where did the angel say Jesus was going to meet the disciples? Okay, so the women, they go to do what the angel said. And so the women hurried away from the tomb, afraid, yet filled with joy, and ran to tell his disciples. Suddenly, Jesus met them. "Greetings," he said. They came to him, clasped his feet, and worshipped him. Then Jesus said to them, "Do not be afraid. Go and tell my brothers to go to Galilee. There they will see me." So here's something interesting. Why did Jesus speak to these women first? That's just something that's very interesting. And you can ask your mom and dad how neat that is. And even think about, what was these women's first response when they first saw Jesus? Were they afraid? Were they sad? Or did they choose to worship him instead? So at this point, the guards have woken up and they have a bit of a problem. While the women were on their way, some of the guards went into the city and reported to the chief priests everything that had happened. When the chief priests had met with the elders and devised a plan, they gave the soldiers a large sum of money, telling them, "You are to say, his disciples came during the night and stole him away while we were asleep. If this report gets to the governor, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble." So the soldiers took the money and did as they were instructed. And this story has been widely circulated among the Jews to this very day. So this is funny and a little bit sad. Instead of seeing who Jesus was and realizing that they were wrong, these chief priests decided to do their very best to stamp this whole thing out and lie about it. And they weren't very successful at all. So, Mary and the other women have found the disciples and told them what Jesus had said, and here they are. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always, to the very end of the age. I want you to imagine something. Imagine that you had the chance to visit and talk with someone who you love very much, who isn't with you anymore. And imagine how that feeling times 1,000 when the disciples who loved Jesus and were with him for years saw that everything he had said had happened, that he wasn't dead, but that he was alive, and more alive than he'd ever been. Why do you think some of them doubted? Would you have doubted? What do you think your response would have been? Think about that and talk about it with your family. So one thing you can do is write down that entire command of Jesus, and instead of the disciples' name, you can write your name and your family's name. And what you can do is look at that and have it somewhere in your house where you can see it every day, so you can remember that what Jesus told the disciples, it wasn't just for them, but is even for you, even when you're small and aren't grown up. One last thing. How does it make you feel to know that Jesus will be with you always, even to the very end of the world? All right. Thank you. Happy Easter. We hope to see you guys soon.